Finally got accepted to South by Southwest, which for a filmmaker, that's kind of like,
Oh, it's massive.
yeah, it's massive because it's artistic, but it's also a market where you can sell your films. So and it's really hard to get into.
Dino's a
So I've
filmmaker
never
too.
even been there. So I was like, oh, I get to go to South by Southwest, and then it all got canceled. So we just kind of like keep moving. We did a little private screening at our house with just some few friends and family, just to get it out there. I'd never seen it before because my wife, she kicked me out of the editing room because she's the main producer on it. So she kicked me out of the editing room. I was like, oh.
Why? What was the final straw? Why'd she kick you out?
There's a lot of reasons.
Your opinions?
Well, I imagine there's a lot of reasons, but the final straw, like what? Do you remember like that last moment where you came in and said one thing and she's like, "That's it, you got to get the fuck out of here."
Well, there's just so many super embarrassing moments in it. It's so like hard to watch for me.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of like, when you do a movie or especially something in the reality space, they tend to pick the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. And those are the kind of moments that you see. So, yeah, it was a really hard time of my life.
You wanted to interject your ideas.
What's that?
And you wanted to interject your ideas like, hey, this right here is real important. And directors don't want to hear your
like
fucking opinion.
Yeah. And with wrestling, it's also like, there's you can't just show me beating everybody up. You guys, this is wrestling. It has to be like a match. You have to, and I try to keep explaining this stuff, and I get super frustrated. It's like, so it was certain things that they just had to get me out of there. I was slowing down the process. But then you also, if you can do that as the subject of a documentary, it tends to let it be a little more open and a little less like protecting your image. So we see stuff while we're looking in the mirror that nobody else sees. But for us, it's that little crooked nose that you hate when it gets shot from this side. But, is there another – if you get into that place in an editing room, it's just going to take you forever.
Yeah. Right. So what happens now then is I'm a filmmaker myself, and I understand. Yeah, a little flex.
A little flex on that one.
I understand how hard it is to get into South by. I've been trying to get into South by for a few years myself and denied every time. So does South by reach out and say, we're going to do something to put it somewhere on a platform for you? Or is it just like, it's just not happening this year, so here's your film back?
No, they've been great. They've been really gracious, and they've had to deal with a lot of like canceling and stuff. So they personally made a deal with Amazon Prime to show the film festival on Amazon Prime. But then the kind of deals they were making were really kind of minuscule.
Sure.
And it kind of like it if you were to go sell it later, it completely like cuts your value in half.
Absolutely, it destroys your value.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
even more than half. Yeah. So we've opted out of doing it on the Amazon Prime thing.
I saw the trailer for the film and loved what it represented, but I also saw things in the trailer that I know as a wrestler you have to deal with. And one is I was the first developmental wrestler. So all the hate that you got, I got. And it's the same hate that Ronda Rousey is getting. And it's the same hate that Rob Gronkowski was getting. And I saw the Ken Anderson spot where he said, he don't have no respect for you. And how did you deal with wrestlers not having a respect? I know my opinion from watching and the fact that I know you and I know other people that know you. Our beautiful friend RJ City.
RJ.
Shout out RJ.
Shout out to RJ.
But how did you deal with that?
He's hilarious. He's just sorry. Yeah, your question's important. one thing to understand is all three of you, were actually professional athletes. That's the difference. I was like this actor, like you know, some the kid, the girl from Friend's husband. You know what I mean? Like people were like, really, like, what the heck is this guy? What? So I know you got heat, and by the way, you broke down so many barriers, and I don't know, just but you're the strongest man in the world. I mean, it's not.
But I still got hated on. I still there were guys that verbally challenged me behind my back.
Yeah. Did they
didn't want to do it to my face because they thought I would rip their face off, which they was right. But
yeah.
But with you and with Rob Gronkowski, y'all came from a world that was not a fighting art, and you were an actor and entertainer, and you come in and people would disrespect that, and I'm sure that you got some of that, like that promo that Ken Anderson, and also saw what was now I'm all the wrestling is taking a hold now, but I see the guys in the promo that, man, they didn't respect you, and my opinion, I watched the matches that you've done, and there's times that you could have quit or said, you know what, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? You have to love it, and you have to be a tough son of a gun to do some of the things that you've done. And I think that's the reason why I grew to say, you know what, man, I don't care that he came from another world. He's one of us. He put himself through the paces. And I watched the blood, the sweat, the tears that comes with being in this business. And I just wanted to know, this is your moment to say this guy is a piece of shit. And I'd like to address that right now because I know there's somebody out there that disrespected you and said something, and this is the time to put them on blast.
Let them know, fam. Let them know.
Well, Mark's not afraid to do it. Mark,
and if they say anything, say, hey, man, Mark Henry made me do it.
Mark, who's yours?
Listen, I could cut some real promos about people. I mean, just in general, but I set out this whole journey for me was really just honoring this business. Like what I didn't understand is that I love wrestling just like everyone else. At one point, right when I was about to win, or right after I won the WCW title,
flex.
I was talking to
a little flex there.
Yeah, Vince Russo. I was talking to him, and I said, I don't get it. Like they're so mad at me. I'm like the first Mark to win the belt. Like and Vince Russo said, we're all Marks, and that kind of I was like, oh shit, wait. I was like, no, but I'm the first fan. I was like the first fan to actually live the dream of a fan. Like every fan's looking up there, oh man, he won the belt. Like, you feel a part of the journey when you follow along with it. So I was like, oh, that'll be fun. Like the fan wins, but I was an actor. So it's like this wimpy actor can't be the guy to do it. So I got it. So I finally got it. But it was funny when he said, no, we're all Marks, and then I looked around and I was like, oh shit.
You're
the
right.
reality of the situation is everyone involved in wrestling, for the most part, is involved because they love wrestling. They spend all their time. They meet all these people. They're dealing with all these shysters, like everybody hustling and trying to get over and trying to make a dime. They're all doing it because they love it, and now it's part of their business. So then you learn it. Once you get out on the road, once you're in those cars, missing those flights and delays, and you're getting, sleeping in cars and sleeping in airports, and you're breaking things and still having to go out there, and you're getting surgeries, and and you're having to take, when you get a bad surgery, you have to take some pain pills, or even just, your back's out. and then you don't want to get hooked on the pain pills, so then you stop taking the pain pills, and then you start drinking a little more, and then that causes its own issues. So it's like this a thing, and then also just the wrestling part of, oh, I've acted for 30 years. I can do anything in front of a camera. I'll do crazy shit that I wouldn't do in my real life in front of a camera as a character, because I can go there safely. Then I can murder somebody and not actually be murdering. You know what I mean? But I can go there in my head and be that psychotic person. Then I can cut and I can go back. But in wrestling, you are living the gimmick.
You are living the gimmick.
Where you're like, that's part of the thing where you don't want to. And this happens in acting too. If you believe your gimmick too much, then you think, oh, I'm actually,
And there's a term for it. It's called working yourself into a shoot.
Oh, wow.
And when you work yourself into a shoot, you end up on this show called The Dark Side of Wrestling.
Right.
Right. No
on
shit.
Vice.
Yeah.
And
Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Ring. I love the show. It's like my favorite non-pro wrestling show.
Yeah.
That's about wrestling. And man, I'm just like blown away at what you're saying, because I've seen it 1,000 times. I know guys that have started to believe the character that they're playing so much that they don't know who they are anymore.
Right.
And you have a conversation. You remember that time we did this? And they like, no. Because they've erased the important reality of their life.
Wow.
And they only remember what happened in the ring or what's manufactured in their head as they was preparing for a role. And when you start doing method acting, which, I studied, I'm not a seasoned actor like you. Me doing a TV show or a movie would be like you being in wrestling when you first started. So, like, I can't sit here and say that, I'm this seasoned actor, but I can emotionally put myself in a place where I am who I'm thinking I am. And to remember the lines and to deliver that is hard, and the hardest part of acting for me. I mean, for you, you're great, but
I love working with actors that are coming up, and I've directed a few things, and it's really great because there is a purity and a vulnerability, and then it's really funny. Like in wrestling, people see it as this over the top kind of thing, but what I've learned is that there's as big as you have to be in some parts, you have to be subtler in other parts, and then there's this degree of all acting about to me is about love. Like it's always about, I need love from this character, even if it's in the form of a drug. The drug I need is to fill that hole of that lost love from when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, the jealousy of her having sex with someone else in the scene is like, it's I'm not good enough. Why am I not good? That goes back to when I was a kid. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So you answer all these questions through that character's lens. So then when it's like reality, and you're wrestling, and something happened where I was like, I freaked out, and I was like, oh. It was after I got in my death match, and I was in the hospital, and I had then been talking to some therapists, and I was like, oh, see, my least favorite thing in the world is war and injustice, and I always like to help the person that needs help. Like, we're in this together. Let's all I wish all the rich people would come together right now, and just me included. And I'm doing my part here and there. But I mean, the Jeff Bezos and all these guys just kind of come together. It seems like Bill Gates is kind of doing it to a certain degree. Yeah. But come together and see, like, let's see what people need just to be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so everybody's eating, everybody's kids got medicine, like the essential things.
Yes. Food, housing, clothing, medicine, education. Like, let's make sure that they got those. And I know it's a very socialist way of thinking, But we're so skewed in this capitalist world that we need like altruism, like we need personal socialism, where these guys are. Because I've been to a lot of these rich people's houses. Only thing I've ever noticed is that things just get a little more perfect. The richer you are, the more perfect everything is. Like everything's perfect. So if that's how they want to live their lives, that's great.
I can't do it.
Like,
I'm not perfect.
outside of your gates too. Everything could start being more perfect.
Right.
And everything could be a lot. And everyone's caught up on this. You know, I don't know. I went off on a tangent.
You're
No,
right.
that's fine.
We're a tangential
Yeah,
show.
yeah,
That's what this show is about. It's not a sports
What
show.
I'm saying is that performing as a wrestler, like, gets on this really intricate, subtle levels, and then these huge, big levels. And then when you see people like Mysterio, like yourself, like Macho Man, like Hulkster, then you start seeing, oh man, I always thought like certain things were so big, but then they're just
The little things.
talking to the audience on such an individual level. It just becomes, it's really helped in my confidence as an actor, just as like a father, even. I don't know, as a human being. You know, I'm not drinking anymore. You know, I do smoke a little herb, just, you know,
Nothing wrong with that, brother. Nothing wrong with that, brother.
Well, this is the barbershop. This is the guys at the sports bar having a conversation. And the people next to you, that they're listening, but they're acting like they're not listening.
It's us.
And that's what this show is. And we have a ball with it. You can go off on a tangent. You can go down the rabbit hole, whatever you want to do. There's no rules. And the only thing we say is, whenever you flex on us, we want to see what it is. Just give us a flex.
Look at those guns, man.
I'm telling you.
Okay. Whoa.
See, now you're stealing RJ's gimmick.
Easy, big fella. Easy, big fella.
The Macho Man.
there's the RJ, the swoon.
That's the RJ pose.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Dave, because it seems like you have this kind of positive outlook and this kind of nice R.I.P. R.I.P. the Savage one.
Positive outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have this positive outlook. You have this kind of altruistic, outlook on life. You seem like a very grounded, individual. So I kind of want to go back to like the movie and kind of like the framework around that. Was your decision kind of, because me and Mark were talking about this before, we watched the documentaries and kind of seen the story, the way that the story was framed about your when you got the WCW strap. Was your pursuit of the wrestling, was it, hey, I know that I can do this at a higher level, and I'm not just an actor that was wrestling? Or was it you were kind of oblivious to the criticism and you were like, I just want to keep doing this, I just want to keep taking bumps, I just want to keep learning, I just want to keep being involved? Or was it a little bit of both? I know for me personally, if you say I can't do something, or if I get negative feedback, it makes me want to do it 80,000 times more. I'm really bad at like taking no for an answer, But was it that, or was it just kind of like, whatever they're saying, I just want to keep wrestling whatever way I can?
It was that for this second run, for coming back and sort of clearing my name and rewriting the ending of my story. I just didn't want anybody to, for one, it's hard. Like, you're a celebrity. When you've been a celebrity for 30 years, then people kind of know you. You've been around a lot. They've seen you go through marriages and divorces, babies. Like, people kind of have an idea of who you are. Plus, family members are all in the business. So there was always that. So when it first started, I literally was just a fan. I was like, I read the script. I was like, oh, this is like me when I was younger, and now he's kind of older, but he still loves wrestling. There's always this moment where you love wrestling with your friends, and then they say, oh, it's like Santa Claus, or it's just fake.
Right.
And then we're like, wait, I still like it. I'm still watching it. I still enjoy the stories. I still love these crazy characters and the costumes and the storylines.
Right.
So there was always that, and that's when the movie came along. I could kind of pick what I wanted to do, had a good cast, and it was with WCW. It was like the first few pages, it's like the Macho Man. Like, are you kidding? I mean, I have a scene with the Macho Man. Like, as a fan, as an actor, I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And it was this tongue-in-cheek, like, fun version of looking at wrestling, trying to walk this line of like teenager movie and wrestling movie. So the tone was a little weird. It sort of lasted, like, in retrospect, it looks better than how it was received first off.
Sure.
But yes, to answer your question, yeah, that's why I returned, just to, like, I'm not just this punk. I grew up in Hollywood, but my dad was like a working actor, the same way somebody's father might work at a grocery store or something. It's the same sort of thing. You make, luckily $30,000 a year or whatever, at most. And if there's a actor strike, you're going to the food bank, and that kind of stuff that's just how we grew up. We grew up, kids gone bad, doing graffiti on the streets, getting into scraps all the time. So then when I grew up, and it's funny, there's a scene with the whole movie with Scott Conn. I knew Scott Conn from before. He was like this tough kid who was like in Venice, but they were younger than us. And they all started a crew called Killer Green Buds at KGB. We're like, no. We're KGB. We've been around. We're kids going bad.
Right.
So Scott and his buddy, the kid Shifty from that Butterfly song, Butterfly, Sugar.
Oh, Crazy Town.
Those two guys.
Oh, okay.
All before anyone was famous.
Right.
We saw like little hood rats. We're just all like, we met at this place called Motor National, which was a graffiti yard where it's like underground trains, and you could just paint walls and cops would never come. So we showed up there. We're doing a piece against them, and I'm doing this big clown, and they're doing, and we do KGB, and they do like another clown. But our piece beat them. My clown alone just crushed in the bomb. But then this kid named Deffer shows up, and this kid Deffer was in KGB before, and now he's an amazing artist. He's got his life together.
And that's his piece behind you?
Just gotten out of jail and been shot in the head.
Oh my God!
And he comes up, and we're what's up, Deffer? And it's like, yeah. And then he pulls out a gat and he puts it up to Shifty's head, and he's like, say you're in KGB now. Say you're in KGB now, fool. We're like, yo, Alex, it's cool, bro. It's not.
We're just painting, bro.
We're just trying to do a bomb here. And to their credit, they were like totally kind of like, I would have been like crying and freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if he's gonna shoot you, he's gonna shoot you.
David, if you had to sum up your famous friend RJ City, just one sentence, how would you describe RJ City?
I'd say RJ City has the potential of being not the next, but a continuation of the same caliber of heel as Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
He studied with Roddy. Roddy gave him personal sort of like conversation. And Roddy to me is just sort of the greatest, him and Bobby the Brain. And so I think he has that potential. And especially with the Piper's Pit, where RJ City, like they all do their Miz talk show and all this, he could do a real one. I think there should be like a real like talk show with wrestling, with some fights breaking out and stuff like that. But then also, you call in, Carol Burnett or something for him.
That could be cool.
Because what RJ fell in love with was the Muppets as a kid and wrestling. So it's sort of like his world, and like talk shows and like Johnny Carson and
that's David. That's what I see. Yeah. And we had RJ on, and we're gonna have RJ on again. And when I see him, I think Johnny Carson. I think Carol Burnett show. I think bigger than he's thinking. Yeah. I mean, James Corgan, like,
he's a personality.
He is a personality that can interview celebrities, that he could just be in the room, even if it's pro wrestling, if it's football, anything. He's got that thing about him that makes him special. And he's like, David is my arch nemesis, but I love him anyway.
Yeah.
Without David, I have no. He's my muse.
Yeah.
He told us a story, David. He told us a story about maybe like a wax figurine in a bathroom or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's going to get it.
Show us. Yeah.
Can we see this? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is so I went to this like vintage clothing store that I go to a lot, and they had this statue of Winston Churchill, and I bought it and I put it in my bathroom. But it's actually my grandfather was a character named Charlie Weaver on the old Hollywood squares.
Right.
Yeah.
He read Letters Home to Mama, so that's his like costume, like his original old hat and glasses and stuff.
This is so good.
Can I ask how?
Arquette, like he's standing on a little. Oh yeah.
What does a wax figurine like that cost of Winston Churchill?
Oh, that was like $800 when I got it.
He was just trying to get.
You're like, you want this? Okay.
An untrained 150-pound Hollywood actor.
He looks good. This is how he showers every morning. He wakes up covered in blood. I've seen it. It's a nice shower.
Yeah, it was a lot to handle.
Hi, Courtney. You know, Courtney made me a horrible cappuccino once, and I've never forgotten it.
Pretty good with our
Look at how young and fresh-faced he was. He was so full of hope, so full of life, and it's all been beaten away, literally. Long underwear, too. It was very long. I'm a boxer briefs guy. What a gut. He got into tremendous shape.
Because David Arquette's a fucking
Mr. Kennedy saying he's a joke, but he doesn't even know him personally. I know him personally, and he is a joke.
Are you able to control it?
Oh, the famed parties. He's a great dancer. He has a lot of fun. Very witty. Very dry wit. I haven't seen him vomit. I've been wanting to vomit because of him. I mean, the man was on Oprah, and now he's on a horse. Talk about a trajectory. You know, that's how you're doing well. Is Gayle King on a horse? I don't think so. There's his warm-up consisting of 4 jumps. 4 short jumps, and then he's ready to go. What are these classes? Are you going hunting? Dear Lord. Wendy Williams knows he's in trouble. There's DDP, TMZ. They always support him, but like ish. There I am. That's much better. He should have got waxed in a lot of areas, and also maybe a little bleaching. There's when we.
Going on?
That's a good line, Christina. What the fuck is going on? That's what I'd like to know. Everyone's sure. Well, he got a haircut from a luchador. The ugliest bumps. Somebody trained this guy. Ugh. He caught a chicken, and often his cock gets loose. The Magic Man. That was another failed gimmick he had. I'm coming for you, David. I'm coming. That's Father Time talking. Dear Lord, this is a mess. Maybe when I slapped him. That's adorable. I'm happy now. Now I'm sad again. Dear Lord, why would you do this to yourself and your family? Oh no, this seems a little broad. The blood is a little fake to me, to be honest. And more vomit. Shades of Darren Drozdov. One good crossbody, and they should just go out on that. You cannot kill David Arquette. The surprising love child of Sunset Boulevard and The Wrestler. Well, it's only like that because I'm in it.